Many social media users can't help but notice a striking change in Fox's appearance, with whispers spreading that she may have undergone a Brazilian butt lift. In Hollywood, beauty isn't just admired, it's a form of currency. It sets the standard, opens doors, and often dictates who rises and who fades away. But behind the glitz and glam lies an unspoken truth, the relentless pressure to chase ever-shifting ideals, no matter the cost. For some stars, that chase leads straight to the surgeon's table. What starts as a desire for enhancement can turn into a gamble with identity, trading natural grace for a version of perfection that never lasts. The 19 black actresses we're about to revisit were once celebrated as icons of elegance, admired for their timeless beauty. But somewhere along the way, that pursuit of flawlessness left them changed, sometimes beyond recognition. What they thought would bring admiration often left scars, both physical and emotional. The results? Transformations that not only altered their faces and bodies, but also blurred the very essence of who they were. Their journeys remind us that fame has a dark side, where beauty can be lost, and identity can slip away in the name of perfection. Brace yourself, the stories and images ahead may leave you stunned, even heartbroken. Vanessa Williams, the high cost of artificial beauty. Vanessa Williams was once the very picture of grace, elegance, and history in the making. The first black woman crowned Miss America in 1984. That night wasn't just about a tiara, it was about breaking barriers and giving hope to millions. But the fairy tale unraveled almost overnight. A nude photo scandal forced her to surrender the crown, and many believed her career was finished. But Vanessa was no ordinary star. She rose from the ashes like only true icons do, lighting up the screen in Soul Food, Ugly Betty, and countless unforgettable roles. On the outside, she sparkled on red carpets, her smile radiating confidence. Yet behind the glamour was a quiet torment, an unspoken fear of aging, of being replaced, of losing the very beauty that had once defined her. And so began a journey familiar to many in Hollywood, a path paved with injections, incisions, and irreversible choices. It started small in the late 90s, a refined nose, just a subtle tweak. But as time pressed forward and her 50s approached, the whispers of age grew louder. Hollywood doesn't just praise youth, it demands it. Vanessa wasn't ready to be forgotten. Botox became her armor. Needles filled with promises smoothed her skin, erased her lines, and plumped her lips. But with every procedure, something slipped away. The warmth in her expressions faded. The vibrant, expressive Vanessa the world adored was slowly replaced by someone she hardly recognized herself. Now at 62, she still graces red carpets, head high, confidence wrapped around her like a crown. Yet to many, she is no longer the radiant queen who once captivated America, but a polished, frozen echo of that memory. Side-by-side photos of her youthful beauty flood the internet, often captioned with heartbreaking words, "She used to be so beautiful." And perhaps the most haunting truth of all, Vanessa knows. Because in the pursuit of eternal youth, there are no second chances, no rewind button. Only the mirror, and the steep price of chasing perfection. Vivica A. Fox. Vivica A. Fox, the steep price of chasing eternal youth. Once a radiant powerhouse on the big screen, she set Hollywood ablaze with her fierce beauty and undeniable talent. From her breakout in Independence Day to slicing her way through Kill Bill, Vivica wasn't just another actress. She was a force, a statement. But in Tinseltown, beauty comes stamped with an expiration date. When she crossed 40, the roles slowed, the calls stopped, and the pressure mounted. Refusing to fade quietly, Vivica made a choice, a desperate bid to outwit time. It started small, a touch of Botox here, a little filler there, just enough to smooth the edges. But Hollywood doesn't wait. New, untouched faces kept pouring in. Meanwhile, Vivica was spiraling. After her highly publicized split with 50 Cent in 2003, the battle became twofold: heartbreak and survival in an industry that worships youth above all else. By the mid-2010s, Vivica's transformation was undeniable. She didn't look older, she looked like someone trying not to age at all. The Botox became routine. The fillers grew heavy. The face once adored on screens now looked strained, tight, and unfamiliar. Her eyes, once alive with expression, seemed frozen. Her smile no longer carried the same warmth. On red carpets, cameras still flashed, but admiration gave way to whispers. She used to be so beautiful. Now, at 60, Vivica still steps into the spotlight, still commands attention. But the glow people see isn't the star power of old. It's the haunting reminder of what happens when beauty turns into a battlefield. Her face tells the story of an industry that punishes women for daring to age, and of the staggering cost of staying young in a place that never lets you grow old. Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams, a desperate chase for youth that left her almost unrecognizable. Once, she was untouchable. A fearless voice on the radio, a sharp-tongued queen of gossip who climbed from DJ booths to daytime TV royalty. Her unfiltered takes made her a household name and even landed her a cameo in Think Like a Man, proof that Wendy's reach stretched far beyond the studio. But behind the cameras and catchphrases, Wendy was fighting a much more personal battle, the mirror. Haunted by insecurities, she began chasing a beauty that wasn't hers to claim. It started back in the 1990s. A tall, broad-framed woman in an industry that worshipped delicate, picture-perfect stars, she felt out of place. Surgery promised belonging. Breast implants gave her an instant rush of confidence, but it faded quickly. By the 2000s, the obsession had spiraled. Liposuction, Botox, fillers, procedure after procedure, all in pursuit of a new image. She craved the hourglass figure, the glamour. But instead of perfection, her body turned against her. Her top half stayed heavy while her legs thinned out, leaving her with unsettling proportions. Her once expressive face stiffened, her cheeks ballooned, her lips warped. What was once strength and charisma slowly morphed into something frozen, unnatural. And behind it all was pain. A crumbling marriage, betrayal, loneliness. Every surgery became a silent cry, a desperate attempt to rewrite her story, to patch over the heartbreak she couldn't escape. But with each cut, with each injection, the Wendy fans adored disappeared a little more. By 2020, the transformation was complete. The vibrant, animated woman the world knew was gone. In her place stood a fragile figure, bloated yet brittle, staring blankly at the camera with a face that hardly moved. On screen, she looked like Wendy Williams. But she wasn't Wendy anymore. She had succeeded in standing out, but at the tragic cost of no longer being recognized at all. LisaRaye McCoy. LisaRaye McCoy, once the picture of Hollywood allure, now a cautionary tale of beauty lost in the pursuit of perfection. Back in 1998, she captivated audiences in the Players Club, her sultry charm and flawless features making her the very definition of glamour. When LisaRaye walked into a room, she didn't just enter, she commanded. But away from the flashing cameras and velvet ropes, a darker story was quietly unfolding. In 2008, her fairy tale marriage to former Prime Minister Michael Missick collapsed in scandal. Rumors of infidelity, emotional abuse, and betrayal tore at her spirit, leaving her reeling in heartbreak and insecurity. Determined not to appear broken, or worse, forgotten, LisaRaye turned to cosmetic surgery in a desperate bid to freeze time and hold on to the beauty that had once made her Hollywood's darling. It started with a nose job, chasing refinement. But the reflection staring back was foreign. The sharp, artificial nose clashed with the softness fans adored. Still, she pressed forward, chin sharper, cheekbones higher, lips fuller. With each new procedure, her once vibrant expressions grew stiffer, her luminous glow replaced by a waxy mask. By 2010, when she stepped back into the public eye, the reaction was stunned silence. The woman fans remembered had vanished. In her place stood a stranger with LisaRaye's name, but none of the warmth, none of the soul behind her famous smile. Hollywood once celebrated her beauty. Now, it watched in uneasy confusion. In chasing perfection, LisaRaye hadn't just altered her face, she had carved away pieces of herself. And in the end, she didn't just lose her looks. She lost the very identity that made her unforgettable. Nene Leakes, a bloody makeover for a reality queen. Nene Leakes wasn't just a reality TV star, she was a cultural phenomenon. The breakout firebrand of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, Nene owned every scene with her razor-sharp comebacks, unshakable confidence, and a presence too big to ignore. Fearless. Unforgettable. Larger than life. But in Hollywood, personality alone doesn't always pay the bills. Beauty is currency. And for Nene, the mirror slowly became her harshest critic. By 2010, she began to wonder if the reflection staring back at her still fit the spotlight she had fought so hard to claim. That's when the transformation began. At first, the changes were subtle, A nose job here, a little lift there. But soon, the very face fans had come to love started slipping away. The warm, expressive cheeks were sculpted down. Her jawline carved into something unnatural. Fillers tugged at her skin until her once fiery eyes looked stretched and unfamiliar. Professionally, her star was still rising. Personally, her life was unraveling. Her divorce from Greg Leakes in 2011 spiraled into heartbreak and headlines, and in a world spinning out of control, she clung to the one thing she could still command: her face. More fillers. Another nose job. Plumper lips. But this time, the public didn't cheer. Admiration turned to whispers. Glamour became gossip. And tragedy replaced applause. When Nene remarried Greg, there was hope for redemption. But in 2021, cancer stole him away forever. Shattered, she returned to the only coping mechanism she knew: surgery. A tweak here, a shot of Botox there. Yet with every procedure, the woman in the mirror grew further from the star the world once adored. The bold, unapologetic queen of reality TV has faded into an echo of her former self. The headlines have gone quiet. The cameras have moved on. And what remains is silence, a once fearless legacy now buried beneath the scalpel's shadow. Kim Fields, the silent nightmare behind the needle. Kim Fields once lit up America's living rooms as Tootie Ramsey on The Facts of Life. A bright-eyed teen with roller skates and a smile that could melt steel, she embodied everything people loved about child stars: innocence, charm, and unforgettable presence. She was beloved, bankable, a piece of television history. But Hollywood is ruthless. It worships youth, then discards it like yesterday's script. By her 20s, the roles dried up. Her phone stopped ringing. The same industry that once crowned her now pretended she didn't exist. Kim became a nostalgic whisper, a face fans remembered but Hollywood had forgotten. Then came 2010. A lifeline, The Real Housewives of Atlanta. It promised relevance, maybe even redemption. But instead of a comeback, Kim walked into a battlefield. Reality TV wasn't forgiving. Every woman on set looked sculpted to perfection, airbrushed in real life. Smooth skin, chiseled features, not a wrinkle in sight. Under those merciless cameras, Kim stood exposed. Every line, every shadow, every sign of time screamed louder than her voice. The message was brutal: you're not Tootie anymore. In 2011, she made her first move: Botox. Then fillers. Just small tweaks at first. A touch here. A plump there. But what begins as a choice soon becomes a cycle. One appointment turned into 5. Then into routine. By 2015, the transformation was undeniable. Her once soft cheeks ballooned unnaturally. Her lips, overfilled, lost their warmth. Even her nose looked unfamiliar, as if borrowed from someone else's face. Viewers whispered, "She looks different. Unrecognizable." And the cruelest cut. That radiant smile, the same smile that made America fall in love, was gone. Frozen. Mask-like. Her expressiveness, her very essence, erased by the needle. Hollywood may have stolen her spotlight, but the scalpel stole something deeper: her sense of self. Now, as Kim flips through old photos of that glowing teenage girl with endless dreams, one haunting question lingers: am I still me? Tikaina Arnold. Tikaina Arnold. Once the firecracker we all adored on Martin, the sharp-tongued Pam who could shut anyone down with just one look. The fearless yet funny mom on Everybody Hates Chris. She was never Hollywood's idea of a cookie-cutter beauty, but she didn't need to be. Her raw talent and undeniable charm were magnetic. She lit up the screen with authenticity, not airbrushed perfection. But Hollywood is a cruel game. It worships youth and beauty, not legacy. And talent alone doesn't pay the bills. By the time Tikaina hit her 40s, the calls slowed. Roles disappeared. Casting directors turned to younger, shinier faces. Fans who once shouted "Pam" on the street now scrolled past her name like she was already forgotten. That's when it began, 2015. Just a little nose job, something to balance her features. At least, that's what they told her. But when the bandages came off, balance wasn't what she saw. Staring back was a stranger. The reflection she once knew, erased. Then came the real heartbreak. In 2016, her husband Rico Hines, the man she trusted with forever, was caught cheating. Worse, his sex tape leaked online. The betrayal wasn't private, it was viral. She wasn't just heartbroken. She was humiliated for the world to see. Alone, devastated, and desperate to reclaim control, Tikaina chose reinvention. By 2017, she was chasing youth through needles and numbing creams, Botox, fillers, the whole package, trying to prove she was still desirable, still worthy of a close-up. But no one told her the truth. A little enhancement can be art. Too much becomes tragedy. Her cheeks lost their softness, her lips puffed unevenly, her smile barely moved beneath skin pulled too tight. She returned to Hollywood, but Hollywood didn't recognize her anymore. The woman who once lit up the screen was gone. Fans whispered, "What happened to her face?" The industry turned silent. Rico had taken her trust. Surgery had stolen her charm. And Hollywood took everything else. Trina McGee. Trina McGee, a star lost to the knife. In the 1990s, Trina McGee lit up television screens with a presence you couldn't ignore. On Boy Meets World, she was more than just a breakout star. She was grace, talent, and natural beauty personified. She didn't need enhancements. She was magnetic all on her own. But Hollywood has a cruel clock, and when she crossed 40, the roles dried up. The phone stopped ringing. After a painful divorce in 2003, Trina found herself slipping from the spotlight into an industry that worshipped youth and punished age. Desperate to matter again, she clung to one hope. If she looked younger, maybe she'd be wanted. Maybe she'd be seen. Around 2010, she turned to plastic surgery. It began with a nose job, meant to sharpen her features. Instead, it left her face strangely off balance. Still, she pushed forward. Botox froze her expressions. Fillers swelled her cheeks into a porcelain mask. Her eyes were pulled wide, her lips overfilled in search of seduction. And by the time she re-emerged in 2015, the world didn't see a triumphant comeback. They saw someone unrecognizable. Whispers replaced applause. Headlines mocked. Friends struggled to recognize her. Her nose looked too sculpted, her eyes locked in a look of permanent surprise. Her once warm beauty stretched into something uncanny. Fans who once adored her were stunned into silence. By 2020, Trina McGee had vanished from red carpets and interviews altogether. Slipping into the shadows she had once fought so hard to escape. Some say she still searches the mirror for the woman she used to be, but all she finds is a stranger. In the end, surgery didn't save her career. It didn't bring back her stardom. Instead, it stripped away the very essence that once made her unforgettable. LaToya Jackson. LaToya Jackson was born into music royalty. But while her siblings, Michael and Janet, soared to global superstardom, she was left fighting to carve out her own place in the spotlight. Despite television appearances and modest attempts at music, LaToya's name remained only a faint echo in the towering legacy of the Jackson family. The constant comparisons, the unforgiving stares, the pressure to measure up, it weighed on her like a curse. Desperate to stand apart from the shadows of her famous bloodline, LaToya turned to the surgeon's scalpel. In the 1980s, as the world watched Michael transform before their eyes, LaToya followed quietly behind. She stared at her reflection, once familiar, now blurred with doubt. Her first surgery in 1987, a nose job meant to refine her beauty, instead left her feeling erased. Her nose shrank into a fragile sliver, barely there. But instead of stopping, she went further. If one operation couldn't make her feel beautiful, perhaps another would. And then another. Bit by bit, her face became unrecognizable. Her chin was carved sharp, her cheeks swollen with fillers, her skin stretched so tight it glistened under the lights. With every cut and every injection, LaToya wasn't just altering her looks, she was losing herself. Then came 1989, the year her world collapsed. She married Jack Gordon, a man less husband than tormentor. Controlling, violent, and manipulative, he forced her into Playboy spreads, threatened her family, and trapped her in a nightmare of abuse. Surgery became her only escape, but instead of freedom, it locked her in deeper. By the 2000s, LaToya resurfaced, but the woman who emerged was a stranger. Her nose had vanished to a line, her chin jutted unnaturally, her skin pulled into a mask of regret. The soft smile and wide-eyed dreamer of her youth were gone. Today, LaToya Jackson still walks among us, but not as the woman she once was. In stepping out of her family's shadows, she disappeared into a reflection the world can no longer recognize. Patty Loveless. Patty Loveless, a timeless voice, a face the years tried to erase. She wasn't just a singer, she was a force of nature. A voice that cut straight to the soul, a presence that commanded any room, and a beauty that radiated both grace and fire. For decades, she mesmerized audiences, her image as flawless as the notes she carried. But time, merciless as always, began to carve its story. Past 60, the glow softened, fine lines deepened, and the spotlight shifted to younger stars. Patty, still burning with the fire of her youth, was struck with a heartbreak she never expected. In 2003, after more than 3 decades of marriage, the man she loved walked away. The silence he left behind was heavier than any song she had ever sung. And in that silence, a question haunted her. If I still looked young, if I was still beautiful, would he have stayed? That thought became a torment. In 2005, Patty turned to surgery. Just a small fix, she told herself. A subtle nose refinement. But the procedure went wrong. The bridge collapsed. The tip lifted unnaturally skyward. Instead of healing her pain, it deepened it. One procedure turned into another, and then another. Fillers raised her cheeks to strange heights. Botox smoothed the lines but stole her expressions. Her lips swelled stiff and uneven. Slowly, the softness, the elegance, the very face fans had adored, vanished. When Patty finally re-emerged on stage, her voice was still electric, raw, and soul-stirring. But her face, frozen and unrecognizable, stunned the world. The pain in her songs no longer reached her eyes. The emotion she poured into every lyric now collided with the lifeless mask she wore. Fans were devastated. The press whispered. Patty had tried to hold on to youth, but in the struggle, she lost something even more precious, herself. Lil' Kim. Lil' Kim wasn't just a rapper. She was a revolution wrapped in Chanel and Versace. The fierce queen of hip-hop who shattered every stereotype, unapologetic and untouchable. With her round face, piercing eyes, and radiant brown skin, she embodied power, beauty, and allure. On stage, she was magnetic. Off stage, she was unraveling. In 1996, love found her, but it wasn't the fairy tale kind. It was the kind that bruised. The man she trusted most cut her down with fists and words sharper than knives. You're not pretty enough. You're not good enough. Those echoes clung to her like scars, warping the reflection in her mirror. She no longer saw the icon the world worshipped. She saw only brokenness. So, she made a choice. If beauty was the weapon used against her, she'd remake herself into something better. It started small, a nose job. But one procedure bled into another, until the woman who once owned every stage became nearly unrecognizable. Her skin grew lighter, her lips fuller, her face frozen under layers of Botox and filler. The goddess of hip-hop had turned into a stranger in her own skin. When she reappeared on red carpets, the cameras flashed, but this time, in shock. Headlines mocked her. Fans whispered. The world asked, what happened to Lil' Kim? In her quest to heal, she had carved away the very essence that made her legendary. What began as survival turned into obsession. What began as self-protection became self-erasure. And in the mirror, where once stood the fearless queen of hip-hop, now lingered only a haunting reminder, a ghost of the woman who changed music forever. Sandra Denton. Sandra Denton, better known as Peppa, one half of the groundbreaking hip-hop duo Salt-N-Pepa, was once unstoppable. She wasn't just spitting rhymes, she was rewriting the rules, carving out space for women in a world that often tried to silence them. Her face, bold and magnetic, became just as iconic as her voice, an emblem of strength, individuality, and rebellion. But fame is a fickle friend. As the spotlight faded, her marriage unraveled, and time left its mark, Sandra turned to the one thing she thought could restore her power: cosmetic surgery. In 2007, she went under the knife for a nose job, hoping for refinement, maybe even perfection. Instead, when the bandages came off, she was met with a cruel twist. Her nose no longer fit her face. The balance that once defined her striking look was gone. Chasing repair, she went back for more procedures. Each attempt, rather than fixing the damage, only magnified it. By the 2010s, Botox and fillers became her lifeline. Injections puffed her cheeks, froze her expressions, and masked her natural beauty. The woman who once commanded the stage with fire and raw confidence now found herself talked about for all the wrong reasons. Fans no longer whispered about her rhymes, they whispered about her face. The rebel, the legend, the woman who once stood as a fearless force in hip-hop, was now hidden behind a mask of regret. Tyan T-Boz Watkins. Tyan T-Boz Watkins was the heartbeat of TLC, the husky-voiced beauty with golden curls and a presence that defined an entire era. As one-third of the best-selling girl group of all time, she wasn't just a star, she was strength, style, and soul personified. But behind the glitter and glory, her world slowly began to unravel in ways no fan could have imagined. When Lisa "Left Eye" Lopez was tragically killed in 2002, something inside T-Boz shattered. The lights of TLC dimmed, and so did her spirit. Haunted by illness and the unrelenting march of time, fear began to take root. In a desperate attempt to preserve the face the world once idolized, she turned to plastic surgery. But what was meant to be salvation became her undoing. A botched nose job in 2005 left her features unbalanced, stripping away the natural harmony that had once made her unforgettable. One procedure led to another: Botox, fillers, anything to stop the mirror from revealing change. But instead of youth, it delivered distortion. Her skin grew unnaturally tight, her cheeks puffed, her lips stiff and swollen. The woman who once lit up arenas with effortless beauty and raw authenticity now looked like a fragile, frozen version of herself. And when she finally stepped back under the stage lights, the reflection staring back felt like a stranger. She didn't recognize herself. Neither did the world. Nicki Minaj. The terrifying price of becoming the perfect doll. Nicki Minaj wasn't just the queen of rap, she was a cultural earthquake. Bold, brilliant, and impossible to silence, she stormed into the spotlight with Pink Friday in 2009, a debut that didn't just shatter records, it crowned her hip-hop royalty. But in the ruthless world of fame, talent alone isn't enough to keep the throne. The pressure to outshine every new face, to stay unforgettable, drove Nicki to transform not just her music, but her very body. In the pursuit of perfection, she turned to surgery. A Brazilian butt lift made her curves the hottest topic in the industry overnight. Yet that was only the beginning. Her nose grew slimmer, her cheeks fuller, her lips thick and frozen like a porcelain doll. The vibrant, natural beauty that once lit up her face began fading behind a mask of manufactured perfection. Behind closed doors, the truth was harsher. Her exaggerated curves, praised under the stage lights, became a physical burden in real life. Her famously enhanced backside threw off her balance, pulling at her tiny frame like weights strapped to her body. What looked like triumph on stage often felt like torment off it. Nicki had become a trendsetter in a culture obsessed with cosmetic transformation, but she paid the hidden cost. Yes, she won the beauty race, but at the expense of comfort, authenticity, and perhaps a piece of herself. This isn't just Nicki's story. It's a warning. Fame demands sacrifices, but what's the real price of chasing perfection? So, I'll ask you, which story shook you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more unfiltered truths from behind Hollywood's glittering facade.